Okay, so we are going to look at the coordinator account and see the differences and the things you can do with that. So like I said before, anybody can come to this site, sandbox.timebanks.org, and they can log in with any one of these accounts or make their own account if they want to. But for simplicity's sake, we're just going to go ahead and use this default account here for the demo coordinator. So we'll just go ahead and paste that in there. And we will right click and copy this, and we will hit Control V to paste that in there. And we will go ahead and log in. So I just pasted the username and password, and we're logging in. So as you can see at first glance, it looks exactly like the standard user's interface, with the exception of this up here, which is the control panel, which we're going to spend the vast majority of our time in for this lesson. So without further ado, let's go ahead and click on that. And the first thing that comes to mind is you'll see that you have it's organized in very clear sections, which makes sense depending on what you want to do. So we're going to start actually over here because this is something which you'll see a lot of. What's happened here is in the last minute or so, someone named Mikey R is the username has requested to join this particular time bank. So I can come into here first off and just take a look at him real quick and see that he's a local guy here in DC. So that works. So I'm going to go and click on back to the coordinator control panel. And I am going to go ahead and check his name and approve selected users. Now if I had multiple people here, I could just check this top box, would check everybody, or I could selectively check, or however we want to do it. So I'm going to approve selected users. And I'll say, hey, just let you know that you're about to do a bulk action. In this case, only one, but there can be more. Are you sure you want to do it? And just go ahead and say confirm. So now you see we have no more users over here awaiting any kind of approval. It's confirmed us that this has happened. Once again, it likes to show off saying it happened in 30 milliseconds. That's 30 thousandths of a second that took place. So good for you, database. Way to write it fast. So we're going to look here at the bottom sections here. As you can see, this is basically adding new stuff. This is editing stuff you've added, and this is customizing things. These all really have to do with the actual site itself. Over here, really, it's about managing members and services, offers and requests, and actual time dollar exchanges. That's basically this side. So we really have the business end here, and we have the front end over here. A member is considered content. They're part of the thing. So if we wanted to add a new member for somebody who couldn't add themselves, for instance, we talked about someone earlier who may have had like Alzheimer's, for instance, or doesn't have access to a computer, but still needs to have the benefit of time banking. You can, as an admin or as a coordinator, you can set this up for them and then just call them with the information so they can come in or even manage it for them as kind of a proxy. So that's pretty neat. If we can come back over here to users. Oh, by the way, this is a content drill down list. It's a menu based on where we are on the site. So home is the top level, so to speak, and then we're within the member section of that, and then we're in the edit roles and permissions of multiple user sections. So I can go back and forth through those things, drilling in and out, so to speak. Here we have a list of all the users of this particular sandbox time bank. As you can see right now, there is no particular order to them, except for maybe it's how long they've been a member for. Yep, right now by default, it's being sorted by how long they've existed. So Mikey, who we just added, has been around for 3 minutes. This person right here has been around for 2 hours, almost 3 hours at this point, and you can go around on the list. So it's kind of cool as a person who's just trying to find who just came in as far as joining your time bank. This is a great way to sort it. Most of the time, you'll be sorting it by username. You'll be looking for a particular user. So you get a call from John Devon, and his situation is he can't remember his password. You come out here to John Devon, boom, there he is. I come over here, I go to edit, pop in here, and change his password. Kind of useful, and then you just go ahead and call him or send him an email telling him that happened. That's how you would do that. So let's go back to the control panel. And we'll go back into the member section again. And we'll look back at content. Oops, I'm sorry. I clicked something wrong. I want to go back into users. I can sort and filter these users by all these different criteria. So basically you would sort, I'm looking for someone whose role is awaiting email, or whose status is awaiting email confirmation, or whose role is a coordinator, and I could sort by that. Just know that when you do that, you have to make sure that you unsort it. So the only TB assistant coordinator that we had, who was just and only that, was Wayne over here. So I could look at his profile, for instance, see where he is, and do that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go back to control panel. I'm going to go back to add new member. I'm going to go back to users again. As you see, what's happened here is I'm like, well, wait a minute, where has happened to the rest of the users? It's still using this sort rule that we put in there a second ago. To get rid of it, you simply reset it. And that'll get rid of all those sort rules and give you the full list again. So we can sort by username, status, how long they've been a member for, last time they logged in. All very, very useful. Let's go back to the control panel. And we're going to look at add a new web page, and we're going to look at actually edit home page for text sort of at the same time. These are kind of both dealing with content on this particular site. The add new web page is what you use to create this example page over here, for instance. And the edit home page is actually different than edit existing web page. So if I made a web page, I would make it here, and I would go to edit it here. But this right here is for the edit the home page, which is what you see when we first log in, this section right here in the middle. And here is what's in there right now. So if we look over at the control panel and we look into edit home page text, we'll see that this is what we see. This is what we were looking at earlier. So I can come in here, I can change this picture, I can reformat what I want, I can do whatever I want in here. But this is where you would make your actual home page. One thing, excuse me, that we didn't talk about earlier, which is really important, is these particular tags over here, and these are basically what you consider formatting things in the programming world. We call them tag attributes, and basically what this tells the browsers. Don't forget these go on iPhones and stuff. This program works on iPhones and iPads and Android, and all kinds of mobile devices. These are what those mobile devices look to figure out how to display the information. So for instance, if I had an address down here somewhere, I would format it as an address. And what that would do is when a person clicked on that link on their cell phones, it would actually bring up a navigation or a map for them. So the device which is displaying the information is very aware of what all these things are, especially address and paragraphs and headings. So it'll display things as they need to be displayed if you format it right. So you'll see this right here is heading 3. This right here is non-formatted. This is heading 3. This is heading 2. That's also heading 2. And if I had an address down here below, I would type in the address here. Whoops. You know me. And if I highlighted this and formatted it as an address, when it came up in a smartphone, such as an Android phone, this right here they could actually tap on. It would actually bring up a Google map of that address. So it's really kind of a cool feature. It's so great that Drupal allows us to work across platforms. That way you can administrate your site and do what you need to do from wherever you are. So you don't necessarily be locked to a computer terminal to do so. I'm going to go ahead and back out of this. I don't want to make any of the changes. I've been mucking about in there a little bit. I don't want to mess anything up, so I'm just going to go back home without saving changes and go back to the control panel. So just so you know that you can edit not only the main text we are looking at, but also this footer information is edited right here, which is this information right here. So that's that. So in fact, let's do that as a lesson. Let's see if that's been formatted properly. So it hasn't been. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight this right here. We're going to make it an address. And now if somebody clicks on that in a smartphone, it'll bring up Google Maps, which is really kind of cool. So it has told me that everything's been done, and it'll look much different now on a mobile device. So that's kind of neat. Come back to control panel just to clear up the last few things over here. Editing alerts and announcements and creating alerts and announcements is really self-explanatory. I'll just click on one so you can see how it looks for all of them. And basically it's exactly what you think it would be. You create an event, you would create the time for that event, embellish it with an image, special functions. For instance, if you want to feature this listing at the top all the time, you could do that. And put all the location information. Once again, make sure this is right. Because we use it with Google Maps to help respondents find the area. And then once again, a robust description as multimedia as you want to make it using all these up here. And you would just save it, and it would appear under featured events and upcoming events. So by saying the featured, it'll show up in this box and that box. If I didn't check that box, it would just show up just here for that one little attributes thing we looked at. Come back to control panel. These two, which is the alert and the announcements, are basically the same thing, just for these boxes over here. So don't worry about those. They work exactly the same. Very, very simple. Over here, as far as member admin, we have basically a block of different reports or database calls that we can do. So here we got a multi-page section here giving us everything we ever need to know about our members. So here's all of our members here listed. We have all their availabilities over on this side. We can click on any one of them at any time, come back and look at their information, see where they live, see what their availability is, their offers and announcements, requests. We can send them an email, however we want to do it. We can also make notes which only coordinators can see, saying, hey, this person's great at such and such, or whatever you want to put here. So that's kind of cool. If we go back up to the top again and go to the next section, it's member activity. This right here will show us everything which has been happening lately. We can sort it by date, by what the balances are involved, or by the number of exchanges for every single user in the system. So we know that, for instance, in this case, demo user has been crazy busy with 28 exchanges, and he's made quite a bit of surplus hours there that he really should be using, or she should really be using to put back in the system. So that is that. Don't forget, wealth and time is wasted time. So that's that. Upcoming birthdays. This is great, so you can see whose birthdays are each month. As the administrator or the coordinator, you can reach out to them or tell other members that this is this person's birthday. If you have very older people, sometimes they have a lot of friends who aren't around anymore, so it's nice to keep an eye out for them. Old Nancy over here, see, she's 1931. To have her experience would be a great blessing to all of us. Once again, you can export it here. Members Extended is basically shows all the members of your bank and surrounding banks that you may have been connected with. So if you want to do a multi-bank dynamic, you can use this as a coordinator to reach out to them from here. And nearby members corresponds, like I said a couple lessons ago, if you have a very big geographical area with lots of little sub-pockets of users, you can sort things by neighborhood, or you can even put in the zip code, say, hey, I live here and I'm willing to drive 20 miles. What do I got as far as members around me? So that is that. I'm going to come back into the control panel tab up here again, and we're going to look at edit roles and permissions of multiple users. Once again, this is the same list we've looked at before. I can check lots of users or a selection of them, and I can change, I can do things. So I can delete them if I felt so inclined, or upgrade them to different roles or whatever. And just know, be very careful with this, because one of the things with Community Weaver, it's great that you can go back and you can fix things, but if you do a whole bunch of people at once, it's kind of hard to figure out who was in the first group and who was in the second group. So just kind of be very diligent when you're doing any kind of group or bulk changing to things, because it's a lot of wrong very quickly if you make a mistake, if you see what I mean. Last thing for the actual members and ads part is, once again, here you can look at all the service ads requests sorted by any way you want to. Expired service ads, see things that are no longer there but were offered at one point. You can come back and look at just all services or all offers, for instance, requests or offers all at once. So here's all the requests in the system, and I can sort them once again by however I want to. And extremely useful. Once again, I can CSV that out back to Excel, or I can RSS it into a blog or in anything else I want to. RSS is a protocol where I can take this and I can paste this into my blog, and that'll show up for all this information. Will kind of show up nice and formatted in this little side window of my blog if I had one, or in any kind of report. So RSS is really nice. You can pipe it right into Excel, for instance, and you can have a Excel spreadsheet which will actually talk to the internet and always update itself. So it's very, very powerful. A little bit advanced, but I want you to know it's there in case you want to nerd out on that. The last thing is exchanges. So I can look at all exchanges that exist, or I can even make new exchanges for members who can't make them for themselves, or even edit exchanges if I want to. So I can come into here and say, okay, well, here we have Keith and Nancy with some classes, and I can go back into the original exchange certificate. I can edit that if I want to. I can do what I need to do. Here, it's just their account numbers. They're here as numbers, but this really does reflect Keith and Nancy. If you want to put their names back in there, that's fine, but just trust this. This is how the database sees them, is Keith is number 35 and Nancy's number 36 or vice versa, but that's just how that works. And you can save whatever changes you made, and those will be updated. And it'll also notify Keith and Nancy that you've been in there and have been meddling. So that's important. So there's a nice transparency with that. The last thing is frequently exchanged services. This is great to see. Okay, so who's what is this time bank being used for the most part? And as you see here, a lot of garden work and home stuff, followed by education, and then people getting driven places and recreation. And you can tunnel right on down to see, okay, well, our community really is into these top 10 things. What can we do to promote these type of things to make our community more robust or whatever else? It's a very, very useful report. And likewise, once again, you can export to Excel so you can just go bananas with it. So it's very, very useful. And that's really about it. I mean, it's a very straightforward thing. And as you see, most of these pages lead to common pages. So what you have is something which actually looks way more complicated than it is. The only caveat I can see right now is it's hard to look at member lists from the user side of things. So I've just gotten in the habit of, if I want to look at users right away but don't want to make a lot of changes, just kind of browse them for some reason. I can just go to add a member and then click on users, and then I'm in my user list. It's just it's the way I've been doing it. It obviously gets you the same place as if you go the old school way, which is here, for instance, or however you want to do it. You can still get into a user and edit them and what have you and make notes and stuff. But to get in their accounts to change passwords, I find that the fastest ways is to go ahead and go through this method here by click add new users, click on users, and go from there. I'm going to recommend to the developers that they just add a view all users, but it kind of floats in a no man's land, because this is all about adding content. This is all about maintaining current stuff, but there really should just be one here that says view the users, which I guess you could do over here, but you know, this is not very straightforward. See, this is kind of where I was going, so maybe that makes more sense, but I just think it's not very intuitive. It's something that we're going to add. So that's the great thing about this, is because it's Drupal, we can add whatever we want whenever we want to add it. So if you have any input, by all means, the whole point of the sandbox is to kick the tires and feel free to walk around the cabin, so to speak, and hit us back with any problems you have so we can make sure this thing is good and robust and updated at all times. So that is that. We're going to touch real fast now, since this was made for you who will be given the PowerPoint presentations as kind of a good high-altitude view of how the program works. We're going to look at the PowerPoint itself right now. That's my Minecraft desktop. I apologize if you're not a Minecraft fan. That'll mean nothing to you. Real quick couple things. So first thing we're going to look at here is the folder that you get will be called Community Weaver, and inside that folder we'll have its contents. And within that contents, as you see, the vast majority of them are movies and pictures. JPEGs are our pictures, and AVIs are movies. And so you'll see the vast majority of things are there. Those are all the resources for the PowerPoint presentation itself. So they cannot be removed from this folder. They have to stay there. We have three other folders which aren't resources, which is the PowerPoint itself, the presenter notes, which is basically a quick PDF document that I've made to facilitate if you're presenting it and just want to have something with you so you can kind of glance, see what's coming up. I've basically made a PDF of all this with real quick brief notes about basically what's on each slide and kind of where your head should be when you're discussing that with whoever you're presenting it to. I've even tell you things which is important, like, hey, this one right here does not have any moving video, so there's no point to try to click on anything. Well, this one right here says, okay, this one is a video, and so you can click on it. So it's useful to print it out, at least for that purpose, so you know which ones are clickable and which ones aren't when you're giving the presentation. This will all make sense in about 2 seconds, 1, 2, because here we are back in the actual presentation itself. So if I come back into here, I can see that I have all my slides off to my left-hand pane here. The first few slides are pretty self-explanatory. This is the basic logo for the software, which people can look at while they're having their seats and while you're introducing yourself. This right here talks about a little bit about the nerd stuff. It says that it's been developed based on the input we had from Community Weaver 1.0, so it's been very robustly developed by the user group. Excuse me. and also how it's developed on Drupal, which is open source and is maintained and developed by a ton of people. So you're never tied into one kind of programmer. You can have anybody in the world who knows how to program Drupal because it's open source. These two work together, this whole scenario, to make a really robust and very updatable program, which works across all platforms and media. This one here shows basically the relationships between one database and the next, and how users can belong to multiple time banks, because all of these databases talk to each other on the back end, which is really cool. So if I have two adjacent time banks, there can be an overlap in services and requests, which is very, very useful, because you figure most time banks are regional and there are some overlaps. This is, we've hit on this once before in the very beginning. This basically just lays out offers and needs dynamics, so you can use these to discuss during your presentation what's happening. And then we get into the actual screenshots themselves. As you'll see, there's a couple different kinds. You have these with the round corners here and here, for instance, and then you have some which have very square corners. And what you really want to be aware of is this blue box around the actual square itself. And if I look here, for instance, in my notes, this one right here says screenshot only. It's got rounded corners. I've kind of made it so it's pretty clearly just a graphic. While this right here says, hey, this one is video, and make sure that you understand that this is going to be something you can click on. When I say click on, I mean that if I click on the slide and I preview it, let's go ahead and preview it in a full slideshow. So I click up top here to bring up slides. I'm just kind of wheeling through them right now, so you can see there's different slides here, and you'll see that there's a difference between them. For instance, on record and exchange here, I have a blue box, so I know, okay, this is going to be a video. If I simply click on it, see how it turns into a finger here and an arrow there? If I simply click here in the video, you'll see that magically it'll start to move as the video starts to play. So here's my mouse coming in, and this is all happening in the video. See, this is me up here moving in a circle. This down here on the bottom, this is a recording of these screenshots. This way you can talk about what's happening, and then you can show them as you're talking about it. Because pace between this person moving around their mouse and you speaking could be different, it's great that you can just click on this video once, and look what happens, it stops. So now you can go back and cover what someone may have had a question about or whatever, and then click on it again to return it back to its play mode. And once again, if I want to say, okay, see how that auto completed, I could just stop it and say, look, there's Nancy Roberts, and then click and start it again, and then it'll go on to this next thing here. So as you can see right here, she's describing it as the English lessons for ESL for English as a second language, and she's recording a transaction for tutoring. And if you wanted to stop it again, once again, like, you can freeze it whenever you want, and then you can go ahead and let it play again. I suggest watching these videos once or twice before giving the presentation, so you kind of know what's coming up. It's all pretty, it's pretty logical the way that it's done, so it's very, very useful. So I'm going to go ahead and hit escape to bring us back to the PowerPoint presentation, and just know that all this information is in here. One last thing I want to show you is, if I can get back to my desktop real quick, open up my Community Weaver folder again. There's this third one which I didn't discuss yet, which is cwauto.ppsx. What this does is this basically skips this entire screen interface right here. In fact, we're going to close that just so we can look at that again. So here I have no PowerPoint open at all. If I just double click on cwauto, what'll happen is it'll launch right into the presentation right out of the gate. And here I can do all the same things. Come into here. Once again, I've started this video. As you can see, in 3, 2, 1, it'll start moving. I do give a little bit of time up top here so people can discuss things up here, but then once it gets going, you can just click on it, and it all works great. And you click on to pause it, as we talked about, and start it up again, and pause it, start it up again, and then come up here to go to the next slide. So here, start and stops the video, and then this one up here goes to the next slide. So that's how that works. I'm going to go ahead and escape to close that, and I'm going to bring back up the home page one more time. The last thing is, whenever you're done, always be sure to sign out. Last thing you want is leave it open, especially on a public computer like a library or something, so someone can get in there. By logging out, you make sure that nobody can edit any information at all. That's basically it for this presentation notes, for you to kind of familiarize yourself with it before you present the software to anybody else. Once again, my name is Tim. You can always email me at tim@bekinderdesign.com, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Otherwise, happy time banking.